There's a fire on Floodgate Farm again. This is October 9th, the morning of 2 in the morning.
So there's extremely high winds out here, and from what I can gather, the fire's jumping pretty rapidly. I'm not sure what the SO's got going on for evacuations, but they might need some help here pretty soon.
The bigger problem we have is trying to get access. We have two structures that are going to go in a matter of a few minutes. We still cannot get any engines to the scene.
Copy. I haven't heard anything that I'm asking for yet or anything, but the winds here are very high, and there's trees down, and it's jumping pretty quick. Pretty much the whole west side of Redwood Valley, going about, it keeps on creeping up. They say, from what I can monitor on cross traffic, that it's spreading very rapidly.
We had 64 people here on the ranch. We were in the middle of our annual grape harvest, so it was a larger number than usual because we had interns and various workers and family members who don't always live here all gathered to help with the harvest. There were 16 family houses on the property. You know, within a few hours there were 2 of those structures left. We could hear the propane tanks exploding. We knew that it was time to go.
Lost my home where I had been living for a couple of years and was woken up in the middle of the night by my landlord letting me know that there was a fire. And I methodically packed my car and was very much in slow motion and very centered until I saw that the flames were on either side of the valley, and then I basically freaked out and rushed to get everything into my vehicle and left to then later, a couple of days later, find out that everything had been lost and that everything had burned down.
When we got the call and I was coming, and at some point I was just like, I told Alex whether or not he was going to come with me. I was like, if you're coming, you're coming. And he went back in the house to grab socks and his boots, because I just put boots on with my pajamas. And he went to try to put socks on, and I'm like, nope, can't waste time with that. So I was just yelling at him. I'm like, if you dare touch socks, I'm leaving you, kind of thing. Like, no socks. So he came with me, and you know, we could see the fire as soon as we got on 101. Flames were coming both ways, and Alex kind of talked sense into me and made me turn around.
My partner Anna and I, we kind of stay up later than most people. Earlier in the summer, she was staying at the ranch with my parents, and I was in India, and there was a fire watch because of I think it's called the Ridge Fire. She was really prepared and really alert and didn't let me just say, fuck it, let's go back to bed. Let's she was like, no, you call the fire department right now. And then I get a call waiting. The call waiting was, so I take the call, and Charlotte Scott, who lives, up the hill from us and is in has a real vantage point in terms of looking at where the fire would have been. They're on top of the hill. So I think, between Wesley and Charlotte, we really owe them for keeping an eye out for the neighborhood. And so, we went up and woke up. My parents, Kim and Mary. I remember Ross, our neighbor, he was ahead of us, and he had gone one way and said, can't go this way, there's flames on both sides of the road. And that was the way we would normally go down Tom Kai, which, was the road to town. And so we kind of collectively as a community made this crazy decision that we had to go north, which is north on Tom Kai Road to Willits. That's a rough road.
I was up before then because the wind was so strong, and so I was like looking at the trees outside, and then I saw kind of a glow, felt like planes coming and bombing. You could hear the explosions far away, so I woke up my parents, and then we all ran around, woke up the neighborhood, went through Attaby's house before it went up. I wanted to make sure that they were out. I went through the little art studio there, and the last person got to look at that. Such a tragedy. Didn't actually have to leave because my dad's a retired firefighter. He worked so hard. He saved multiple structures in our neighbors' properties, like someone's garage and someone's house, and just like random like small structures that he could save. He came back the next day afterwards. He had like a sunburn.
Yeah,
he
got so close to a propane tank that blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, while we were really, focused on different stations of the property, he was running from house to house with buckets of water, and he manages, besides our 2 houses on our property, he saved the neighbor's garage, another neighbor's, and 2 other houses.
He says that this is like he had like his career fire after he retired.
This is all the burn from the fire just around my neighbor's house. And if you can see beyond those are Black Hills. That's where it was green a few weeks ago. And when you get to the real black part overhead, this is my neighbor's place, and our place is beyond that. This is our orchard. What's left of it. Why even bother working if you're going to have everything burn?
I felt a kinship with the trees on our land, and the birds loved them too, landing and lifting off their branches. At the feet of the sheltering generous trees lay manzanita and toyon with their seasonal fruits, and poison oak that wasn't poison to all.
And looking at these amazing clouds, which I intend to paint.
People gave me some beautiful things after the fire, but I don't remember. Like, who do I credit this lovely scarf to? I'm sure that some very nice person handed it to me. It's all a blur, to be perfectly honest.
When I came down here to the Grange was standing, and I was very grateful for that. I came in with my husband Peter, and we opened the door and made sure the electricity was all happening, went around, checked all the pilot lights and everything, and then left a note. The PG&E said just leave a note as a phone number so that when they turn the gas back on, I can come and let them in to relight all the pilot lights. And when I went to close the door, I put the note on the door, and when I went to close the door, is when it hit. I can't close this door. People are going to need this place. I'm going to open the doors and just say, come on in. The first thing we're going to do is set up a children's area in the foyer over there. And that would make it so that as soon as people came in, the very first thing they'd get would be the children's area, which I think is the most, I think for me, and in lots of ways, was really the most important thing. People who didn't lose their homes, people who had to have their electricity turned off and had food that was wasting and things that were happening. And so people came down here and said, how can I help? Well, it was overwhelming, beautifully so.
The reason she is still alive is she's a crate dog, and so she was in the crate that night. So, and the leash was right on top, so I could grab that, grab her, grab the keys to my car, all in one. If I had to go and find her, or like the cats, I couldn't go and find, we wouldn't have survived. So she helped us evacuate.
I mean, I did lose, one friend in it, Charlie. Afterwards, because I'd spent a lot of time like wishing I could live out here beforehand, so it's just weird how it ended up that because of the fire and all these weird turns of events, we ended up being out here, and life is a lot better for us, and it just feels kind of weird and wrong that turned out like that.
The black cat. Oh, the cat that cat lives with us now, but that cat was very, very standoffish. One of those kind of animals that just did not want to be seen. And I painted that picture, just the unseen victims of the fire.
Yes.
That are just in the shadows that we don't even think about.
We knew our houses were gone, and we knew that much of the Fry Vineyards winery had been destroyed. At the same time, we buy grapes from 40 different certified organic grape growers in Mendocino and Lake County, and their grapes were okay, but they couldn't bring them into Fry Vineyards. I mean, the road was barricaded and it was in shambles. But a beautiful thing happened that the Barrow Winery and the Parducci Winery and the Fetzer Winery called us within just days after the fire and said that they would make room for us at their facilities. So that was such a huge help, and really probably meant the continuation of the winery. If we hadn't been able to do that, I don't know what we would have done. So this is the barn. You get a sense of this is also another really sadness to have lost this barn, because it was a real historic structure, just a classic California redwood barn that was like a ship, I think, as I described it in there. It was way up. It's always going to do more paintings of it. I've done a few.
About the third day, the cats that were burnt really needed help, and they were willing to come out. And I was calling Humane Society or
the animal control. They were wandering around in trucks, and we had them on speed dial at that point. They were like, "Oh, it's you again. Okay, we'll go to your house. We know where it is." We're like, "We got another cat."
Yeah, and there was one cat, a neighbor of mine. They had lost two cats. They knew for sure in their house, but there was one other that they were like, "Well, I hope you can find him." And it was like probably 2 hours after that, I actually did find him. And
unrecognizable.
Yeah, luckily
he was long hair, and he was like short hair at that point.
Yeah, he had
gray,
burnt paws and nose and ears, and we got him in a cage, and we called the owner, and we were able to get him to the evacuation line. They got him directly to the vets.
Yeah, shout out to them, to those people.
Oh, yeah.
They were swamped. Because I saw that stuff online, and it was like, wow. And they were really supporting everyone. Just the immense work that so many different people have done.
Another thing we noticed, the Redwood Valley Grange. It had assembled a sizable amount of relief goods and services for anyone needing them, which is many, many people here.
We're right here on the valley floor, and so yesterday they started letting people go into their houses, and we were very aware that people would need counseling, people would need food, coffee, and when people go in and then they see that they have nothing, and they're devastated, so they can come back here and sit and have a hot meal, talk to people, have someone watch your children while you're filling out forms.
The Grange movement is 150 years old in America, and the Redwood Grange, here for more than a century, is beloved. With kids occupied and supervised, the long, tedious, humbling experience of applying for aid is made more simple. And with spotty cell service a problem, the Grange has arranged for internet for phone and computers.
I had a bunch of cash. I had just sold a piece of property, and I had some cash at my house, and so I just put some in there and said, just take it. If you need some money, take it. And people started putting money in, taking money out. In 17 days, no one ever took the whole jar or everything out of it. I don't think anyone ever really took more than they really needed.
Well, New Year's we had this wonderful trailer tour. We kind of just toured from one to the other and shared food there. And again at the Fry's, Katrina had a little lunch, and it was kind of this chance to just reaffirm that community can rebuild.
I've got a good group of people that I have found here. The community is so giving.
Hi, we're from Ukiah Players Theater, and we're going to show you around a little bit so you can see all the things that we have right now.
We're right across the street from the high school.
We've got lots of water. We've got diapers. We've got men's shirts. We're open 24 hours a day, and we're here until we're not needed anymore.
We are having a dedication of the Memory Rock, which is in memory of the people that died, also a memory of the resilience of the community that came through during the fire a year ago. Cy Ramos, who is a member of our club, grandchildren died in the fire. And that was probably the impetus that really got me going on it. I want to do something to have them remember what happened here.
Just a few days after the fire, I decided to post something on Facebook telling my neighbors that as they go through the rubble to save pieces so that we could create mosaics together. I thought how cool that would be to be able to make something and utilize these pieces that we found. And so the first week after the fire, I went back to my place just to go through stuff, and I got a lot of, metal, burned metal and broken pottery and a lot of things that a lot of people would say that's just a bunch of junk and it needs to be thrown away. But to me, it was like treasure, And it just sort of grew from there. Other people in the community had ideas to create art. And so there was a group of us that got together on a regular basis to meet and talk about how we could have an art showing about a year after the fire, the anniversary of the fire, that would include the mosaics that would be made, which happened in a workshop that myself and Elizabeth Raby led.
The idea was to bring any little fragments of heirlooms or treasures that people found at their house sites after the fire, or you could come without those and just an idea in mind. And I spent the weekend with a wonderful group of people who had all lost many things, including family members. So it was sobering. It put in perspective that what I lost were just things.
Several of my works and read as an intro to our mosaic workshops. A world flattened by departures does not end in the jaws of sea serpents, but returns to itself round as an empty bowl, holding the sacred bones of our creations. So it seemed like it was really an appropriate line for people who were coming to work with some of the remains and remnants of things that, some of the few things that survived when their houses were burned down and so much of their lives were gone. So this mosaic is called The List of the Broken, and it was the piece that was of mine that went into the museum show when we had our post-fire work. But this was actually made, since I was so busy working with everybody on the mural at that point, I didn't make a new piece, but this was made for part of an Al-Matanabi Street Starts Here project worldwide that was about the bombing of all the bookstores in Baghdad. So it is a list of the broken, and it talks about so many things that were lost and broken and can they be replaced. It's got another poem by Armand in it. when we started, when I started with the idea of how to do these, I thought, oh, people can make new artwork for their new homes. But it's really a different thing when people are coming in with their grandmother's melted wedding rings. And I was, when Sarah Shepard signed up for it, when she and her husband were burned so badly and both of their children died, just when she signed up for the workshop and came to take it, I thought, okay, we're really doing a good thing. And then she came and stayed and worked on the mural afterwards too, and was able to exhibit one of the only pieces of artwork that her daughter, who was already starting to look at which art school she was going to go to the next year. So that was really affirming and felt good to be able to do that.
I've been collecting this for a long time. A lot of Heath ceramics, because that was the first place I ever taught mosaic workshops. One important thing that I thought before we did the workshops was making a few kilns full of all kinds of letters in different sizes and numbers in different sizes, so that anybody in them that wanted to write a little bit of the story or put the dates of the fire or the dates they were making it or anything, they would be able to do that with them. And I had all kinds of broken dishes before, but I think I may have ended up with more broken dishes and things after.
My neighbor and friend who lost everything in the fire, and so I was helping her just kind of pick up the little scraps that are left. There really isn't much, and this was a window that had it was for a little greenhouse, and it had broken in a way that the patterns were just very interesting. So I carefully picked up each. From the heat? Yeah. So I picked up each piece like a puzzle piece and set it aside so it could be reassembled. I knew it would be reassembled in a little bit different way, but it needed to also fit together. And so that was I put with a mirror and then the dirty broken glass from the fire, and a few little forks and knives, and because she was a big prepper.
So I'm very glad that we all did it, that you and Nori and the rest of us, really the people from NCO and the Arts Council and the
how many hands worked on it?
I'd say that actually on that mural there were probably 45 people who, Kathy Monroe's haiku, that there's 4 of them included in it. People who came and made a tile. Well, Anna, of course, made the duck tiles and some chicken tiles. Quack quack. And Allie, in addition to having the photos, it was great that Jan Hoyman helped so much with transferring photos onto the tiles for that. It made such a huge difference. Very, very glad to have done it, and just the feedback that I got from people about the mural too. It's just, they come and they see it and they cry, and you think, it's like, I don't think when they say I cried, like, oh my God, I'm making people sad. It's like, no, it provides a very needed relief and release.
When I first found out about Out of the Ashes and the whole idea, Elizabeth had come to visit, and she didn't know that I worked here. And I've known Elizabeth through other projects, through mosaic projects. So she had been telling me about the project and saying that, that maybe they're looking for spaces, they wanted to have a fire recovery project, and she talked about the ceramics, the mosaic project that she was working on. And she said, maybe there's some space here. And in my mind I was thinking, well, we have to make space here. We can do this, we'll do these colors, we can pull this together. And then I don't think the magnitude of this exhibit hit me until the day you came and all the artists started coming. Not only were people coming and sharing their stories and being validated, but we were seeing survivors come, and I think just in their arrival, coming with their art, was making a statement to the other artists. And so when there was the opening at the Grange, I invited 2 of my librarian friends to go down to that opening. It showed that it was about the artists, it was about community, and it was definitely about healing.
I think someone said to you, it's like not post-traumatic stress disorder, but post-traumatic growth. And sometimes you don't really realize what you can go through and what you're capable of until you're put in that situation.
In my 75 years of life on this imperiled planet, it has been my observation that the people who call themselves heroes rarely are. and that the true heroes don't speak of themselves as such.
I wrote 3 grants, I believe, 3.5 grants.
4.
And edited and wove the stories together from 7 different people into a theater script, basically.
The fire survivors who will be sharing their stories with you tonight began meeting in my tiny living room in early July. The walls still reverberate with their voices, their tears, and their laughter.
Our stories intersect like a flood in the mountains, rivulets cascading, crisscrossing, rushing down the mountain.
Midnight orange glow all along the ridgeline, flames roaring down.
And over the years that I lived on the ranch, its people became my friends and my family and my community. And I got to know the land and the people, and the more time that went by, the more I began to see how uplifting and special place the Rancho Mariposa is.
I yelled for Tom to wake up. He was in a deep slumber, and I had to shake him quite a bit. What is that? What's going on? Almost immediately, we both saw bright, tall flames at the peak of the eastern hills and exclaimed, "Fire!"
The fact that Ari was with us was just about all I could think of, and Charlotte was right in sync with me. We were not about to wait a moment more than what it took to get dressed and go.
But before leaving, I needed to find Sarah Nielsen's phone number and let her know that there was no time to evacuate our horses. I knew that she was very attached to her mare named Wildfire.
Bang, bang, bang was the next thing that I heard after I fell asleep. Charlotte Healy, my landlady at the time, was at the door saying, "There's a fire and we might have to leave."
I've never been part of an exodus before, but that is what it was.
Reach your hand across the scorched earth landscape of my life. You may not ever understand, but I can see you care.
I dearly miss my friend Char Foster, who loved and supported everything Bill and I did. I will dearly miss my friend and neighbor Vicky, stopping to chat when our cars passed on the road.
No matter how many nooks and crannies were stuffed with steel wool and expando plastic goo, eventually there would be some empty entry point. Then the telltale droppings would appear to remind us that as much as we love and appreciate the natural world and all its amazing diversity, we do appreciate certain boundaries.
Navigating a new life, restoring a blasted landscape. I am so appreciative of the safety net cast by a caring community.
Reach your hand across the scorched earth landscape of my life.
That's great. It's a neighbor's house. She went into assisted care, and so I'm happy to be able to have a place that feels more solid. I've had great friends that have put me up for the past year and a half, and that's been a wonderful experience, but it's really nice to have my own place again.
Over in the north was going to be kind of has a floor, and that's going to be where we can have kind of rodent-proof storage or bear-proof storage. Those are with poles, from trees that died in the fire, and it's been so great to repurpose them because obviously they were kiln dried.